Well, thank you for being here today. I am so delighted to have such a beautiful group of ladies with me today. We've passed out the memory verse for today, Matthew 18, 19 through 20. Again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. So we have that promise that wherever we're gathered in the name of Jesus, He's right here. He is here because He promised us He would be here. So thank you, Jesus, for being in our midst. Let's just review our memory verses from prior weeks. Week 1, Joshua 24:15. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. James 5:16, week 2. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man or woman avails much. Week 3, 1 Peter 5:8. The devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Week 4, Hebrews 11:13. All these people died still believing what God had promised. Week 5, last week, and He will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with a curse. Malachi 4:6. So, just verses that kind of go along with what we're studying. A few weeks ago, we did shalom and the pictorial images of what shalom means. Let's look at that. And shalom means to destroy the authority that establishes chaos. And I thought, wow, just the letters have, each letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a meaning associated with it. So to destroy is shaped like teeth, like we chew our food, we destroy, we eat. The staff is the authority. What is this called? This letter?
That would have to be.
It doesn't matter.
It would have to be an aleph. It's an ancient version, so I'm not familiar with it.
This one down here, does that help?
Yes, if you put a dagesh next to it, it's an O.
Okay.
It would be the O sound.
The O. And that means that, it's a vowel, isn't it? Is that a vowel?
The dagesh is a vowel.
Okay, and I don't have it.
The dagesh is a dot.
A dot,
yeah.
Okay. Their vowels are very interesting. They have little tiny jots and tittles.
Yes.
You know, every jot and tittle in the Hebrew, it means something. And I started studying some Hebrew on, what was that? Duolingo. I'm telling you, I gave up in a hurry because it's like, oh my word, is this complicated. It's like, I do not have the time to do this. I was failing quickly. But because there's so much to it.
Very time consuming.
It is time consuming. But anyway, that symbol means, it's like here it looks more like a nail that establishes. And the last is like water or chaos. And so isn't that a beautiful word picture?
Yes.
The authority, to destroy the authority that establishes chaos. So,
Very pertinent to what's going on.
what's that?
Very pertinent to what's going on. So we should
Pray
just
for shalom.
cry shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Amen. For Israel. Okay, so I thought, I'm going to look up a couple more words, simple words, just to show you a couple of more Hebrew pictures, okay? So the first one I have is God, which would be El. We would call it El. And I think that's the ancient letter for, I think that's the Aleph. And that is the head of an ox. Okay, so you can see like the nose and the horns, so it's the head of an ox. It now looks more like something like that. is that right?
In one of the scripts, yes.
In some of the
In one of the scripts.
There's so many scripts.
Yeah.
And the Aleph
In the formal script.
means strength or leader, and then the other letter would be like that, which is the staff, which is authority. And in a little more modern script,
Yes.
like that. So, the meaning of El, or God, is strong authority. I'm certainly not an expert on Hebrew. I'm just copying what I saw somebody else write. And then Father is also very interesting because he has that same letter at the beginning, which is leader. Or strength. Sorry, my handwriting. And the second letter of the name of Father is, there was a couple of different symbols, but this was one of them, and that is household. And then the newer, something of this nature, and something like that. So the father is the leader of the household or the family. This means household or family. So I find it so neat how they picture the word itself describes the person or the action or the thing that it's talking about. So the father is the strength of the family, the leader of the family, and that's the position God has given the father. I'll have to look at mother and see what hers is like. I don't know. Ima. So I have to look. I should have looked that one up too. But anyway, I love it. I think it's so neat. So, okay. So today, the reason I wanted to do that is because today we're talking about how we can enrich our marriage through prayer. More intimacy, less conflict. That's the title of it. And I know Karen was saying, I don't have a husband anymore. It's hard, and some of you have lost your spouse.
But I'm divorced and I don't have.
And you don't have a spouse, so
I have
you know
Michael,
what?
but he's dead.
But we never. There's always a benefit from learning, because what you can pass down to somebody else. And this is the beautiful of us as grandparents. We may not have children in the home anymore. We may not have the same situations. Many of you have lost a spouse or that kind of thing. But what you know is so powerful. Our society does not value age. They don't value those of us with gray hair that are older. But yet we've lived a lot of life, and we know some things that we could pass down if the next generation would just be willing to learn from our mistakes, learn from what we've learned, And so, anyway, is what it is. Is what it is. God has definitely given us some life experience that we've been through a few trials, and we've seen God be faithful. There are cultures in this world who do value the elderly, but unfortunately America does not value the elderly. I think they don't value the elderly because there's such an attempt in our country to control and to manipulate, and young people can be controlled and manipulated. And if they listen to their parents and their grandparents, it's harder to control them and manipulate them. So anyway, so why should we pray together as couples? Permanency and harmony. How many of you want permanency in your home? How many of you want harmony in your home? Yes, we all do. Prayer is healing. Prayer heals us. Did you know that? As we pray together, we're more likely to empathize with the problems of our spouse that they might be dealing with. There's just something about praying for somebody that helps us to be more compassionate. I don't know what there is about it, but it helps. It opens doors of communication that might otherwise be closed. As the two of you communicate your needs to each other and pray for each other, it just brings you closer together as a couple. There's just something about praying with each other, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend. Those of you who don't have a spouse, strong friendships can be formed through prayer. And so there's benefits even if you do not have a spouse. Many of you in this room do not have a spouse. But you can form tremendous friendships with people by caring about what they're going through, by learning what they're going through. Unity, as you begin to understand the struggles, dreams, and desires of the one you're married to, and you pray about those things, God can bring into your lives answers that you might not have ever thought of. You may not understand what drives your spouse, but you can communicate with each other and ask God for direction. He can give you a better understanding of each other. You know, we live such a busy life. I don't know what the statistics are on how many minutes a day spouses actually talk to each other, but it's not very much for the most part. Cell phones have helped a lot because we can communicate through the day when something's going on. But David used to work at the mine, and it was like he went into prison every day. You went in and you couldn't come out until the shift was over. There was virtually no communication. It wasn't like working at a normal business. It was just like going into prison every day. But occasionally he would find a phone. and David is great at calling me. He's really good about that. In fact, everywhere I am, he calls me.
Average time is 37 minutes a day.
37 minutes a day.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well, that's pretty good. It's better than it's actually better than I thought it might be.
24 hours.
Out of 24
I gotta
hours.
sleep sometime.
But he would often call me from work, especially when he was having a difficult day or he couldn't troubleshoot something. He was an electrician, and sometimes there was equipment out there that was just impossible. And without being able to fix it, sometimes the plant would be shut down. Things would just be really difficult. And he would often call me and he would say, "Can you pray for me today? We're working on such and such, and I just need wisdom how to fix it." And I cannot tell you how many times I would pray for him, "Lord, just open his eyes, show him where the difficulty is, help him to fix it." And within minutes, he would call me back and say, I found it, I got it, thanks for praying. You know, this happened over and over and over again. So how is it that we can't believe in prayer when we have those kinds of situations happen all the time? All the time. We were in unity. I was in unity with him, and God came into that midst. It says here in our verse today, where two of you agree as touching anything, my Father's going to answer you. You're going to get an answer. But as we communicate with each other, as we stop and talk to each other, we have a better understanding of perhaps why our spouse is behaving the way they are. I've been doing a prayer walk through my neighborhood, and I've just been going through and praying over everybody in my neighborhood. Saturday, Calvin and I made fudge. We made 12 batches of fudge.
Wow.
And and we took them around. We took them around to each of our neighbors. And before we took cakes, we took little cakes around. He likes to cook, so I try to do something with him so we can, have time together. And so we took fudge around to all of our neighbors and just told them, hi, I'm just trying to figure out, how do I open up this neighborhood? It's so closed. Everybody drives in, they go in their house, they lock their doors. Nobody ever comes out. You'd never see one of my neighbors if you didn't see them walking from their car to their house. It's just crazy. But I'm trying to find out, how do I reach my neighborhood? Well, the girl next door she's just so sweet. I love her very much. And the other day, she was outside and I asked her, I said, how you doing? And she goes, oh. And I said, what's happening? And she started telling me about a work situation. She had transferred to a new department. It should have been a good transfer. She said it should have been better. And she says, there's a girl there that just hates me. And it's making my life miserable.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let me just pray with you right now. And so she said, oh, please do. And so she and I joined hands and I just prayed over this work situation. And so the other day she texted me, it was late at night, and I was sitting up and I got the text and she says, are you up? And I said, yeah. And she says, I got a package from Amazon for you, can I drop it off? And I said, oh, sure. So I walked outside and she brought it over and we're standing outside talking and it was cold. I mean, I was just shivering. I said, come on into the house, let's go inside. And so she came over and we talked till midnight. She had to get up the next day and go to work, but she and I were able to talk till midnight. That's never happened before. So I asked her, I said, so how's the work situation going? Is it any better? She goes, yes, thank you for praying. And here's what she said. She said the girl is facing some physical issues. And that was really the problem. And so you see, once she began to communicate with this person, found out what she was actually facing, then things began to clarify a little bit. She began to see her in a different light. And with your spouse, so often they head off to a work situation that's foreign to you. The mine was foreign to me. I didn't know all the issues that I still don't know all the issues he went through when he was up there. But if he would communicate that with me, then I had a better understanding. I had more compassion for him. I knew some of the stress he was going through daily, day after day after day. And the challenges he was facing. And your spouse may have challenges in some other direction, but if you will communicate with each other, you're going to understand the other person so much better. And it's just going to bring you together better than you ever thought possible. Everybody goes through stuff, but if we will learn to talk to each other, to care about each other, to pray with each other, we're going to change the intimacy and the atmosphere in our homes. We can get so mad at each other. There's no one in the world that makes me madder than my spouse. None of you can come close. And yet I love him more than anybody in the world. Do you know what I mean? And so we've got to communicate. When we make each other mad, we've got to communicate and find out, why did you do that? Why did you hurt me so badly? Cheryl talks about in their marriage that when they would have an argument or something, that Hal would come up to her and put his hand on her heart and say, God, heal this heart that I've hurt, or something of that nature, and just heal this one that I love so much and that I've hurt so much, and heal the wound that I inflicted upon her. And then she would do the same for him. Well, that's hard to do when you're mad at somebody, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the last thing in the world you want to do. But if we will discipline ourselves to immediately bring ourselves back into that situation, I think our homes would be a whole lot better. As you pray for each other, a love connection forms. As you pray for the things that are important to your spouse, they will feel your heart connecting with theirs, and love enters that equation. It's such a beautiful opportunity for couples to develop a deep, intimate relationship with each other. You know, your husband and your spouse, there's no relationship like that. And we have to nurture that even when we're old. When we're young, hormones keep things going, don't they? And when we're old, what keeps it going? We have to intentionally keep it going. Do you know what I mean? We're wiser, we're smarter. The depth of our love for each other is so much deeper than it was when hormones was driving it. Do you know what I mean? We have a relationship with that person that has stood the test of time. We've spent years with them. We've gone through ups, we've gone through downs, we've gone through grief, we've gone through sorrows, we've gone through loss, we've gone through financial difficulties, we've gone through all kinds of things with this person. And they've remained true and faithful to us, hopefully. Hopefully that's been the case. And so we have to form those intimate relationships even when we're older. As we invite God into our marriage, He will give you answers for things that you never would have thought of. There are so many times that I have prayed and God has spoken to my heart and I'm thinking, man, I never would have thought of that. That's when I know for sure that wasn't my thought, that God gave that to me. That wasn't out of my wisdom, it was out of His wisdom coming into my thinking. When there's conflict, you have got to come together with each other and with God to solve it. You've got to, instead of going in separate directions and saying, I'm just separating myself. Sometimes you have to just separate yourself for a few minutes, you know what I'm saying? Till you get yourself under control. But I'm just saying, you've got to come together and talk about it to solve the problem. One of the hardest things to do is to pray with somebody you're angry with. It's really difficult. But Ephesians 4:26 and 27 says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. And I'm telling you, when we are angry with our spouse or anyone else, we are giving the enemy a foothold in our life and in our situation. You cannot hang on to it. You cannot hang on to it. You have to resolve things and let it go. One time, years ago, I think we had a baby shower going on. And two of the ladies in our church got into a fight. Oh my goodness, it was like, whoa. And one of them grabbed the other one by the hand and says, you come with me. We have been friends way too long for this to happen. And they walked out on the porch and immediately settled their disagreement. And I thought, I was so proud of them because, yeah, they were upset with each other. You know, sometimes we get upset. But the one that took the other by the hand, I thought, what maturity. Well, they both were very mature Christians, but the one, I thought she showed such maturity because she refused to allow it to go any further. Yes, they had had an argument. Yes, they had a disagreement. You are going to have arguments and disagreements. You're going to disagree with other people. We don't all see things the same way because we filter it through our experiences, through who we are. And out to the porch they went, and they came back in friends. And I thought, thank you, Jesus. That was a beautiful picture for the young. I was younger at that time. It was several years ago. I was one of the younger women in the church at that time, and I saw that. I didn't say anything to either one of them at the time, but it was a picture I never forgot. And that's what I'm just saying. As older women, the younger women may never come to you and say, thank you for doing that. I saw what you did. But it makes an impression when we do the right thing. And so that's the reason it's so important as grandmothers and mothers that we mature to the point that we do the right thing. Even if we don't have a spouse, we do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Because you're a living picture to other people who are around you. Satan tries to wedge between couples. He tries to put that in because he knows the power of agreement. And if he can separate you and break that power of agreement between you and your spouse, he's got a stronghold in your home. Don't let him have a stronghold in your home. Your home is going to be miserable. I guarantee it. As you pray together daily with your spouse, your relationship will grow stronger. It just will. You will develop ways of communication. You will develop trust in each other. And it's okay to ask forgiveness. Did you know that? When you've done something and you've hurt somebody, even if you feel like you were right, because we usually do feel like we're the one that's right. It's always somebody else's fault. It's okay to go and ask forgiveness and say, you know, our relationship is just way too important. It's way too important. Forgive me. I feel like I'm right, but I still need forgiveness because I would not hurt you for anything. It's okay to ask your children for forgiveness. Sometimes we're wrong. You know, as parents, sometimes we get the story wrong. Our daughter comes and tells us, oh, my brother did this and this. Well, it might not really be the truth. We might get part of the picture and not the whole picture. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes our discipline is wrong. And we set such an example for those little ones by saying, you know, what I did was wrong. And I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? I'll try to listen to both sides next time. I'll try to do that. When I was teaching school, I think it was the first day of school, I got a call from the principal's office for Janine, of all people. Janine? Seriously? And I think she had, do you remember Avon's little samples of lipstick? She had a little case with a bunch of those little samples, and she had taken it to school. And one of the girls took it and just made a mess with the lipstick. And Janine got blamed for it. And so I went to the school, to the principal's office, and Janine was there, and I said, so what happened, you know? And so Janine told her side of the story. Well, the principal hadn't bothered to listen to Janine's side of the story. She only listened to the other side of the story. And it was like, okay, so Janine didn't make the mess with it. She did bring them, but she didn't make the mess with it. It was somebody else. And the principal was so embarrassed because she didn't have the whole story. She only had part of the story. And my daughter was getting punished for not doing anything. And I said, well, she did do something. She shouldn't have brought the samples with her to school. And I'm sorry about that, and I will take them home, and she won't bring them back again. But the fault did not lie with her. It was with somebody else. And I said, so anyway, I was a little bit miffed at the principal for not finding out the whole story before she just accused one person in this situation. So I mean, we need the whole story. You know, sometimes we need the whole story. And sometimes we make very quick decisions. And I know the principal was just probably overwhelmed. It was the first day of school. Everything was going crazy. And here she had a mess on her hands. So she's just trying to solve a mess. So anyway, it all worked out okay. And she and I became very good friends, as a matter of fact. And she became my boss later on. Prayer just brings healing when there's situations going on. In the appendix of the book, on page 259 to 263, if you have the book, it's Praying Breakthrough for a Troubled Marriage. And I just encourage you, a lot of times you may not be having a horrible situation with your marriage, but you might be having situations with a spouse, and I just encourage you, just begin to go through, and there's scriptures here. Pray the scripture. Pray God's word back to him. He wrote it. He loves it. And he will answer it. And I'm just encouraging you to just go through here. There's a prayer of love, a prayer for strength and direction, healing in challenging times, discernment and courage, breaking free of strongholds, pray where appropriate, 259 through 263 are several ideas of how to pray, because sometimes when we're so frustrated, we just don't know where to begin. We're just, do you know what I mean? So a little direction. I talked to Cheryl on the phone yesterday. I just love that lady. She is so passionate about prayer. And she just, every time I talk to her, she starts a fire in me. I'm not kidding you, because it is so much a part of who she is and what she is. Prayer is just who Hal and Cheryl are. So she has a lot of good ideas in her book about how to pray and how to begin. She spent her whole life in this endeavor. So what are some things you and your spouse can pray about together? Okay? You can pray that you have unity of purpose. Don't you guys want to be going the same direction? A marriage where husband and wife are going in separate directions is not much of a marriage, to be honest. I mean, you may both have we all have different abilities, and we all have different interests, and we all, you know what, we're unique. But our purpose needs to be united in a marriage. You can pray about having quality time together. How do you spend more than 34 minutes a day? 37 minutes a day doing something that's quality with each other. I've been trying to pray about that with my grandchildren. Lord, give me quality time with my grandchildren. That's the reason I cook with Calvin. I watch movies with Bo. You know, I'm just looking for things. What do I do with my grandchildren so that we have quality time together when they're at the house? I bought a sewing machine for Ani, and I haven't sewn with her much in the last few months, but we made some little bags together. I just look for things that I can do with them that to make memories. You know, I'm not going to be here forever, but I want them to look back and have memories of things that we've done together. You can pray for renewed love with each other, because you know, after time, those hormones do wear off. And that's when you've got to discover what is love really? What is love? You know, when David was sick with COVID, I cared for him. I took care of him, and he told me last night, "Thank you for taking care of me when I had COVID. Thank you for doing that." Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time, but he was thinking about that. You know, we do things. I cook meals. Sometimes I rub his feet because his feet hurt all the time. I care about him. I care very much about him. And he cares very much about me. And so as you grow, love develops into something far, far different than when you first got married. And if it hasn't, then maybe you should pray together that God would show you how to renew that love for that person. You can pray for your children. You can pray for their school, their friends, or your grandchildren. Outside influences, I'm telling you, they're terrible. Outside influences are horrible for our kids. You can pray for their little bad attitudes. You know what I mean? Sometimes I see bad attitudes in my grandchildren, and I pray about it. Lord, you got to help them. I don't know what to do about this situation. And you know what? I've seen him turn that around. I've seen him turn it around and change the attitudes they have. You can pray for their future goals. You can pray for their future spouse. And if you need more ideas in the book on page 254, it says, praying God's promises for my children. So there's some ideas in the back of the book for that as well. You can pray for your finances. How many of you know finances are a big issue in a marriage? Whether you have lots of money or you don't have lots of money, finances can be a huge, huge issue. It doesn't matter. Years ago, there was some study that said everybody lives about, I think it was 10 or 20% above their means. It didn't matter what their income was, that we have a tendency to always spend more than we should be spending. Oh my word. Do people not know the word budget? Figure out a budget and live in it. And it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of money or a lot of money. You need to figure out a budget that works for your family and live there. Live there. You need to pray about, do we give money above our tithes? Let me talk to you a little bit about money. and what goes to God. God is supposed to get the first fruits of your money or your increase. Okay? 10% of what you make should be given as a tithe. When you do that, I believe you will be totally amazed at how far 90% can go. And I'm going to be honest with you, it will go really well if you figure out a budget. I'm on a budget kick. I really believe families need to figure out how to budget their money. Because here's what we do. We pay the house payment, we pay the electric payment, we buy groceries, and we spend the rest. You know what I'm saying? You pay what you have to pay in order to continue to live. You pay your car payment or whatever else you have. And then people just spend everything else. And then they have nothing. They have nothing, nothing, nothing. And if we will budget our money, we will have at least something, something, something. It really makes a difference. That's a lesson David and I learned the hard way. Because what did we do? We paid our house payment, we bought groceries, we paid our bills, and we spent the rest. And then, when the insurance bill came in on our car, we never had the money for it. When tires came to the car, we never had the money for it. We knew those things were going to come up. We knew it was going to happen. And finally, and I have to give my husband the credit for it, he thought it up. He said, you know, if we started putting back a little bit every payday, figure out how much it's going to cost us for our insurance, and we put, you know, just figure it out, how much do we have to put back every payday to pay that, maybe we'd have the money to do it. Duh. Wow. Concept. It works. It truly works. And I tell you, the first time I had money in the checkbook to pay for that insurance and I didn't have to take it out of my grocery account, I cried.
Yeah.
I cried. I was like, oh my goodness, we can pay it. Well, maybe we should do that for some other things, you know? Maybe we should figure out how much it costs for tires and save for that, because that was another big expense we had in those days. Well, maybe we should. So we budget everything now. We budget everything. You can pray about wisdom in your spending. What is wise? Should we buy that? Shouldn't we buy that? Do we really need a new car? Do we really need a different house? You know, you talk about that with each other. Those are important, big issues. This kind of stuff causes tremendous conflict in a home. When one person loves to spend and one person loves to save. Most households have one of each. Did you know that? I don't know why God does that. Maybe just to protect us. You know what I'm saying? So that you don't become so frugal that you never buy anything, but you don't become such a spendthrift that you just spend everything. But I find that most households have one spender and one saver. So He puts you together for a purpose. Pray about your job. You know, maybe God has a good place for you. Maybe you're in a terrible place and maybe you need to pray with your spouse about their job. Pray for your employer and your work environment. You know, pray over those who have authority over you. The Bible teaches that. So I encourage you to pray for those that are over you, that you know, often, like I was talking about our spouse, we understand them better when we talk to them. We don't always get that opportunity to talk to an employer, to know what's going on with them. Maybe their home life is horrible. Maybe they come to work and they're just mad at the world, you know. And it may be because things are going bad. Maybe their health is bad. Maybe their kids are not, you know, doing right. You know, who knows? Who knows what's going on? So as we pray for those who have authority over us, God can give us insight and wisdom. You can pray for deliverance from unhealthy lifestyles. Maybe you have an addiction. Maybe there's some sin going on. Maybe you have a bad eating habit. I hate that one. I've been praying about that one. It's working. It's helping. It's helping. I'm doing better. We need to pray for forgiveness. We need to forgive each other. I want you to think about your spouse. I really want you to think about it. And think, is there anything that I have towards my spouse that I am holding unforgiveness for? Did they do something to you in the past that you're maybe holding on to a little bitterness and unforgiveness for? You think about it. Do you have a family member that you're angry with, you're unforgiving of? Do you have a friend that you're angry at? Maybe they've hurt you. A lot of hurts in this world. Satan works really hard to make sure we've got lots of hurts. Anybody in this room never been hurt? You've never been hurt? Nobody's ever hurt you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I've heard a few of them. Yeah. You know, we've all been hurt, and Satan makes sure there's reason, legitimate reason for us to be angry and unforgiving. And God says, let it go. Just let it go. Vengeance, he says, is mine. I will repay. We can give it to him, and we can let go of it. Are you mad at God? Sometimes we're mad at God. I've heard people so mad at God. Forgive God. Forgive your friends. Forgive your spouse. Forgive your children. Forgive your friend, your relatives. Forgive everybody. You can do spiritual warfare together. Is there something coming against your marriage or your family, your children, your workplace, your health? You know, that power of agreement. I cannot tell you how many times David and I have been going through something here at the church that we didn't know how to solve. Something was happening in our ministry and we didn't know how to solve it. And we have spent hours and hours interceding together for wisdom. How do we do this? What do we do, Lord? Help us in this situation. It seemed insurmountable at the time, and yet God came through and gave an answer. You can always pray for your pastors together and the staff of the church. If you want a better church, pray harder. You can pray for God's presence in our services. Pray that over our services. Please do. Pray for revival. Pray for your ministry. And if you need more prayers, page 285 in the back. I think 285 is still in my book. 7 powerful life-giving prayers for your church. So pray for your church. One of the most pressing things you will ever pray for together as a couple is your family. Perhaps your child is withdrawn, angry, rebellious, sad, has an eating disorder, discouraged, just whatever. You guys, you're their spiritual head. You have spiritual authority over them. I just really encourage you that your prayers are powerful over your children. When you observe things that are going on, bring them to God in prayer. Pray specifically for the needs of your children together. And I believe you're going to see God answer in ways that you never realized he could answer. He'll give you ideas and he'll begin to work. I believe God can fill us with the ideas we need, and I know there are a lot of challenging situations going on. When you're praying together, it doesn't have to be hard. First of all, keep it simple. Be vulnerable. How many of you really like being vulnerable with somebody? Is that a safe place for most of us? No. And men particularly know that being vulnerable is very dangerous. But in a marriage, vulnerability is what builds intimacy. When your husband needs to know that he can trust you with anything. He can trust you. You have to make yourself trustworthy in your marriage for him to be willing to be vulnerable with you. But vulnerability is where we build intimacy. I tell David everything. I think he tells me everything. Probably not. Probably not. But I feel like he could, and he could trust me with that information. Do you know what I mean? None of us want to tell somebody something that is very personal and then have them spread it around to everybody else. No one wants that. Your friends don't want that. You don't want that. But in a marriage, it needs to be that safe of a place that they could tell you anything in the world and know that it's safe. Keep your prayers positive. Pray in faith. Pages 255 through 259 give you prayers for your spouse, give you ideas. How do I pray for my spouse? How am I going to pray for this person? Do it every day. Just make it a part of your life. Make it something you don't do just when there's an issue, but make it something that's part of your life. Now, what if your spouse is resistant to praying with you? And this might very well be the case. Then just begin to pray over your spouse in your own prayer time. You start the process and you begin praying for your spouse. Make prophetic declarations over your home, over your marriage, over your household, over your children. We will serve the Lord. My house will be an example to every house in this neighborhood. My family will be a picture of God's grace. Speak over yourself. Just make prophetic declarations about what you want your family to look like. It may not look like that right now. We're calling forth those things that are not as though they are. And we're speaking them into an existence. And I just encourage you to speak into existence the godly things you want over your household. My children will be well. My children will follow the Lord. My children are going to know the Lord. They are going to be an example to their friends. Ask your spouse if you can pray over them. And take the initiative to pray blessings on them in their work day. You know, they may not want to pray for you, but say, honey, can I pray for you before you go to work? Lord, just bless my husband today as he goes out the door. Keep him safe as he goes to work. Help him to be the head and not the tail. Bless the work of his hands. Help him to have answers that no one else has. Just help him to be a blessing to everyone he's around. Lord, I just pray for your blessings on him as he goes. Would that be offensive, do you think, to anybody? Could you offend somebody by just praying blessings on them? Probably not. Maybe there's somebody who would be offended, but I think they'd like it. Your spouse may be intimidated to pray out loud. A lot of spouses are intimidated to just pray out loud. So don't push them. Don't push them. Keep your prayers short so you're not intimidating them, that you've got all the answers and all the prayer. Just keep it simple and short. And then when you have a need, try asking them, honey, I have such a headache today. Would you pray for me? You know, give them the opportunity to pray over you. Honey, I just feel so discouraged today. I don't know why I'm so down, but could you pray for me? You know, a simple request might really open the door. If your spouse is still resistant, be patient. You might find a friend, and I'm encouraging you, a friend of the same sex, who wants to pray for their spouse, and you can agree together. You can partner together for each other's marriages. What if you're the one that's resistant? What if you don't really want to pray? I want you to ask the Lord these questions, okay? Do I harbor any unforgiveness in my heart? Is there anything keeping me from being where I want to pray for this person? If you're unforgiving, you probably don't want to pray for them. You've got to let go of that so you can pray blessings on someone. Are you afraid of intimacy? Maybe something has happened in your life and you're afraid to be intimate with this person or with anyone. And ask God to show you. You know, God is really amazing at showing us areas of our life where we've been wounded, where we've been hurt, where things are affecting us that we may not even know are there. Very often we react out of things that have happened in our past that we don't remember necessarily, and we're not associating it with what's going on today. But we are very much affected by incidences and things that have happened to us in the past, particularly in childhood. And they can affect the way we react to other people. So I just encourage you to if you find that you're resistant, ask God to begin to show you, and then ask Him how to bring healing to those areas. Are you nervous about praying out loud? Ask God to show you why you might hesitate. Why are you afraid to pray out loud? If you need to forgive your spouse, I just encourage you to go to God and ask Him to forgive you first for holding bitterness in your heart. And then you might even have to go to your spouse and ask them to forgive you. It may be appropriate, it may not be. whatever, you ask the Lord. I just really want to encourage you as families, and those of you who don't have a spouse, still to find a friend, to get together and pray. God can do beautiful things over you. Let me pray over you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. I pray that you will go from here encouraged and wanting to pray together with your spouse. It doesn't have to be every single day, but every single day would be good. As much as you can, I ask you to just figure out a way to spend time with the one you love and your spouse, and your family. Thank you.
Joan?